Welcome again to the Old Principle. Now, today's lesson is number 113, the two-headed turtle. You know what that is? You've probably never seen one exactly like that. That is a turtle. Turtle, 乌龟, okay? And so now you know, but this one has two heads. 113, Mrs. A, you want to join us here? Sure. Okay, and here we go. The two-headed turtle.
We have often heard the saying,
two heads are better than one.
It's often true that a lot more work can be accomplished when two people think through a problem together. They consider more possibilities in a solution because each one can see the problem from a different perspective. But there are some situations in which one head is better than two, and that's the point we want to consider. A teenager in Virginia went into her backyard to begin working on an experiment for her high school science class. She wanted to compare the growth characteristics of domesticated geraniums with those of the wild variety. She worked in the garden behind her house, digging holes in which to plant the specimens. But as she did, she came upon a creature she had never seen before, a two-headed turtle. She was shocked at her find and immediately decided to switch science projects. She would study the lifestyle of her two-headed turtle. After she caught the poor creature, she took him to her science teacher, and together they worked out a plan. They would place food in front of the turtle and observe the outcome of the experiment. As they watched, the two heads did a tug of war over a piece of food, each one trying to grab the food that the other had in its mouth. As a result, neither head got a full serving of food. The girl researched the studies of other scientists who had worked on projects similar to hers. They had discovered that two-headedness can occur in all animals, but the lifespan is typically short. The reason is that each head tends to work independently of the other, controlling its own side of the body. Therefore, the two heads create disunity, confusion, and frustration. Unless one head takes primary control, the creature will soon die from starvation and indecision.
Whoa, there are a lot of words in this one. Yes. Well, it's interesting anyway.
Yes, it is.
Well, don't run away, because I might have enough time to talk with you one more time.
Okay.
So here we go. The two-headed turtle. Okay, 乌龟 and 有两个头. Going on. We have often heard the saying, 一句长话, two heads are better than one. Two heads are better than one. I think that the idea is, well, in fact, if we go on to the next sentence here, it's often true that a lot more work can be accomplished when two people think through a problem together. Okay, a lot more work can be accomplished. In this case, accomplished means it can be done, it can be finished, it can be accomplished, okay? Okay? When two people think through a problem together, 两个人共同的面对一个问题. So they're doing it together. Going on. Now the words get hard. Now I will have some Chinese, okay? But I'm going to try to use English to explain English. And that may be tricky, but let's try it, okay? They consider more possibilities. And so when people are working together, they think about 很多可能性, okay? In a solution, okay? 所以这个解决的方法, okay? Because each one can see a problem for 不同的角度来看这个 problem. So, because each person looks at the problem just a little bit differently. 从不同的角度. Okay, from a different perspective. 不同的角度. Okay, going on. But there are situations, 有些情况, okay, situations in which one head is better than two. Okay? And that's the point we want to consider. So we want to consider this. We want to discuss this. We want to think about this. Okay? Going on. Now, here's the story. Okay, the story. A teenager in Virginia. First of all, Virginia, sometimes Virginia is a girl's name. Okay, but in this place, this is 地名. This is a name of a place. Okay, Virginia, 弗尼吉亚州. Woo, that's kind of a difficult. Yeah, just say Virginia. Virginia, a name of a place. But this is a teenager, 少年人, a teenager. Okay, she went into her backyard, 后院子. So in America, we have front yard, 前面的院子, and 后院子. So you have usually lawn in front and you have lawn in back. Okay, front yard, backyard. And what was she going to do? She was going to begin a science project. Begin working on an experiment. 实验. You know, everybody knows what a 实验 is. For her high school science class. 科学课. Okay. So, what did she happen? Let's go on. She wanted to compare the, whoa, now this is difficult. She wanted to compare, 比较, okay, to compare, 比, okay, to compare the growth characteristics. What is growth? 生长, okay. Characteristics, okay, 特征啊. What is she going to compare? What kind of growth characteristics of, whoa, domesticated, 家养的, okay, Geraniums. Geraniums 是一种花。Geraniums. You want to know what the Chinese are? Let me see. Geraniums. 天竺葵. Woo. Never heard of it. Honestly, I don't know. That's what my notes say. Geraniums. But it's a very common plant, a flower. It's very common in America, at least. I don't like the smell of geraniums. You do? Mrs. Ash said she likes the geraniums. Okay, we'll have to talk about that a little later on. Okay, characteristics of domesticated geraniums with those of the wild variety. Okay, 也有野生的 geraniums, 天竺葵. Okay, so she's going to compare the wild and she's going to compare the domesticated 家养的 and see which grows faster. Okay, so this is what she's going to do. Let's go on. She worked in the garden. Of course, she's in the 后院子. She's in the backyard, and she's in the garden. Now, is this a 菜园 or is this a 花园? I don't know. But a garden is a place where you plant plants. 你种一些植物, okay? A garden. So she's working in the garden behind her house, okay? Digging holes. Why would she dig a hole? Well, if you're going to plant something and you're going to plant it, then you've got to dig a hole to put them in the hole. Put the plants, 把植物放在那个洞里面. Of course, they're not big holes. They're just plants. Okay? So she's digging holes in which to plant her specimens. What is a specimen? A specimen is a plant that she is going to study. Or a specimen may be a plant. It could be anything. It could be a plant or an animal. In this case, we're talking about plants, aren't we? We're talking about plants. She worked in the garden behind her house, digging holes, because she's going to plant the flowers, wild flowers and domesticated flowers, 野生的还有家养的, and she's going to compare them. She's going to study which one grows faster, or how do they grow? Going on. But as she did, she came upon, now, isn't that strange? We say we came upon. Doesn't make sense. In English, to come upon something means that you discovered something. You were, sometimes we say came upon when we're walking, and then we see something, we discover something. Okay? So she came upon, that just means she discovered a creature. What is a creature? It's an animal, 动物, 生物, a creature, an animal she had never, ever seen before. What was it? It was a two-headed turtle. 双头龟. Can you say that? 乌龟. Okay. So, a two-headed turtle. This is a turtle with two heads. Going on. She was shocked. 蛮吃惊啊. Okay? She was shocked. 蛮吃惊啊. At her find. No. What does it mean to at her find? At the thing that she discovered. In this case, at her find. 她所发现的使她蛮吃惊. Okay? She was shocked at her find and immediately decided to switch science projects. Good idea. It's a good idea if you find something new and exciting, then study the new and exciting thing. So decided to switch, 改变, in this case, to change her science project. 她的计划，她科学计划，她想要她的项目，她要做的这个项目。She would study the lifestyle of her two-headed turtle. Okay, lifestyle 生活方式 okay, of her two-headed turtle. So this is now her new project. Going on. After she caught the poor creature. Okay, in this case, a poor creature means 可怜的动物或可怜的生物. After she caught it, 抓, okay, she took him to her science teacher, of course, because she's going to change her plan. She needs to ask the teacher if it's okay to change the plan. And together they worked out a plan. 他们都做了一个计划 going on. They would place food in front of the turtle. Okay, so now they're going to put food in front of the two-headed turtle. And they would observe 观察, okay, 观察, observe, to observe the outcome. What is an outcome? It's a result. It's a result. 这个结果或效果呢 of the experiment. Of course, this is a 实验. Now, let's think this thing through. Going on. They watched, and what did they watch? Maybe I put this down. They watched the two heads, what? The two heads were doing a tug of war. Have you ever seen a tug of war? I forgot how you say it in Chinese, but if you take a rope, 绳子, and on this side you have a team, 有一队, and on this side you have a team, and they're pulling back and forth. Okay, this is a tug of war. Okay, tug of war. And what were they doing the tug of war for? The food. The food. That both heads wanted to eat the food. And each one was trying to grab, to draw, to grab, to bite, take hold of the food that the other had in his mouth. So can you see the situation here is one head has the food in his mouth and the other says, "Oh, no, you don't," and starts to pull the food out of his mouth and into the other one's mouth. Can you imagine the difficulty? I mean, the two heads are not coordinated. Okay, going on. As a result, neither head got a full serving of food. Okay, 结果呢, both heads 吃得不够. A full serving of food, say, how do you say, the amount of food necessary. Okay, so a full serving is not enough. So there, one head says, "I'm hungry," and the other one says, "No, you don't. I'm hungrier." Going on. The girl researched the studies of other scientists. So now here's where she 研究其他科学家所做的这个研究 and especially projects like hers. 计划就像她的一样。Going ahead on. They had discovered, these are the scientists, had discovered that two-headedness, that means the animals with two heads, can occur in all animals. All animals can have two-headedness. I don't know. Have you ever seen a two-headed human being, though? I don't think so. We have Siamese, but I don't think it occurs in human beings. Okay, but the lifespan, 它的寿命 okay, the lifespan 这个 typically 一般说来 typically is very short. Going on, the reason is that these heads tend to work independently of each other. Okay? The reason is that the heads tend to work, 趋相于, they work independently, 各自各做. Right? 各自各做. This head does its thing, this head does this thing, controlling its own side of the body. So this head would control this side of the body, this leg, and this head would control this leg and this leg. Like, okay, so if one is strong today, then they go around in circles because that's the only side that's moving. Okay, so no, it doesn't work very good. Going on. Therefore, two heads create disunity. That means the 不和, okay? Confusion, 混乱, and frustration. What is a nice way of frustration? I actually have a Chinese word on that, and that is 恼火的事. Okay, 恼火的. In other words, there's a problem in going on inside of the mind. Again, disunity, 不一致, okay? Disunity and confusion and frustration. Notice what it says here. Unless one head, 除非, unless, that's a good word, unless one head takes primary control. What does it mean to take primary control? Okay, control, we all know what control is. Control is 控制. Primary control is one head takes the control. Okay, so that means 主要, and the other head is 次要. Okay, one is primary control, the other is secondary control. Okay, unless one head takes primary control, the creature, remember what we said creature was? It's an animal, 生物, okay, will soon die. Why? Why will it die? From starvation, 饿死. Okay, starvation. You know, have you ever heard human beings say, I mean, I've said it many, many times, I'm starving to death. Very common. I'm starving. Of course, they're not dying, but it's a very common way of saying I'm very, very hungry. But this case, they're not only very, very hungry, they are actually dying. Starvation. And what? Indecision. Indecision? What is indecision? Okay, 犹豫不定. Indecision, not being capable or able to or willing to make a decision. Okay, now, here we go. We get Mrs. Ash to come back here for a few minutes, just for a moment or so. Thank you very much. So, when two people, we should probably face our audience here. When two people are married, is two heads, or are two heads better than one, or one head better than two? Whoa, that's a philosophical question. Well, I'll tell you a story about her. Well, I've told it so many times. Do you think you could tell this story?
What story are you talking about?
Oh, man, she already forgot. She has a hard time to make decisions. So you know what I said? I said, sweetheart, 亲爱的. Okay. And then I said to her, marry me. 嫁给我. Let's get married. And then I will help you make the decisions. Is that true?
Uh-huh.
Even yesterday, she said, well, I don't know what to do. But that's okay. Some people are that way. She is musical. I don't know anything about music. So she does her thing very well. And I sometimes help her on decisions. Not all. Okay, with that, I think we better look and see how you can write a letter to us. You can write to our email address at theoldprinciple@gmail.com, and our website is www.theoldprinciple.org. Again, www.theoldprinciple.org. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again.